topics here?
Motivational. I know Matt talked to you a little about the difficult times we're having and how to become a great entrepreneur.
Good. And average person, business owner, salesperson?
Yes, yes,
All
business
all
owners.
business owners. I'm going to talk a little about our region,
Good.
and we'll do that. Okay.
Good. Yep.
Okay, let's start, Alvaro. We have 220 participants right now already connected.
Okay. Should we start now?
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna give a quick message in Spanish, and then I'll jump into English, and then I'll turn it over to Miguel. So I want to welcome everybody, all the associates of Desarrollo Económico, friends and allies of our industry. As you know, we're the fourth largest manufacturing hub here in Ciudad Juárez and El Paso, the biggest by national community, over 2.5 million people here at the border. And then there's a lot of people that are friends and allies listening to us all over in Mexico. So I want to welcome everybody. And I want to turn it over to Miguel, and then I'll read your bio quickly so everybody can listen to some of the stuff you've had success on.
Great.
Thank you, Alvaro, and thank you, Jordan, for this time that you're dedicating to the economic development organizations here in Chihuahua. Just real quick, we have more than 47 years of existence here in the state of Chihuahua. It's practically business owners, the people who are integrated into the council. So right now we're going through difficult situations because of the pandemic, and most of it because we have a federal government who don't understand the economic side of things, but they do understand the social one. So I know that you have a great expertise in how to navigate through challenging times. So we want to thank you for this and thank everybody who is connected. You're most welcome, and let's start. I will turn over to John Varela. He is also one of the organizers. John, if you want to give a message, introduction, please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. And it's an honor and a pleasure to be with all of you this morning. And we're wonderful special presentation today. On behalf of Chairman Raymond Palacios, who's also on this webinar, he is the principal and owner of Bravo Chevrolet Cadillac. Great time to buy a vehicle, by the way, Raymond, who's on the call. But on behalf of him and the many investors who I'm sure are on this presentation as well, thank you for the opportunity to be a partner. Desarrollo Económico is a valued partner in job creation in the Borderplex region. Very briefly, we are going to be the leaders in job creation in the post-COVID recovery. We inevitably will see reshoring of hundreds of thousands of jobs from China in the next year or so. That's going to happen. And we will be the gateway of trade for the Americas, and we will lead the way, both of our organizations. So I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about this presentation. It's a great time to hear a motivational presentation from our guest speaker today, and what a great time to live in our area. So thank you. It's great to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Just one quick message to everybody reading Jordan's bio before I turn it over to him. Really quick, Jordan Belfort built one of the most dynamic and successful sales organizations in Wall Street story. To this day, his proprietary sales training techniques and daily motivational speeches are the stuff of legend, earning him a reputation as a motivator without peers. His life story has, as many of you know, has turned into a blockbuster feature film, The Wolf of Wall Street, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. And his straight line sales and persuasion system has been tested and proven to transform virtually any individual, regardless of age, sex, education background, or social status, into a world-class closer and top producer in the field. Today, his life represents the ultimate redemption story. After surviving his rise and fall as an American entrepreneur icon, he is now the world-renowned motivational speaker and sales trainer who assists both people and organizations in breaking through barriers on the path to achieving measurable, lasting success. As a top business consultant, Jordan has worked with over 50 public companies and multiple Fortune 500 brands, including IBM, Virgin Airways, and the John Maxwell team. He is also the host of the fastest growing business podcast on Apple, with an average of 77,000 streams per episode. His best-selling books have been published in 22 countries and translated into 18 different languages. He's a frequent guest commentator on CNN, CNBC, and the BBC. Well, welcome with this. Welcome, Jordan, and I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Alvaro. So it's literally an honor, privilege to get to talk to everyone. Just so you guys know, I do speak Spanish. My girlfriend, mi novia es de Argentina, pero mi español no it's not good enough to really go full out and give you guys the feeling and all the emotion I want to give you today. But if I was just having a conversation, we could talk in Spanish. So maybe we'll meet in person one day and do that. Anyway, I think if there's one thing that everyone knows that's successful, but they have trouble applying on a daily basis. We all know that both intuitively and if we look back in history, that the greatest opportunities always present themselves at the worst economic times. If you go back, fortunes are built. You go back in history historically and see, yes, in the midst of the Great Depression, what came out of the ashes of the Great Depression? If you look back at the time of when things crashed, if you look back at times after 2008 in the global financial crisis, these companies emerged. Companies like Amazon, Facebook there's always these companies that end up, going through the barriers of a depression or a recession and in coming out the other side infinitely stronger and industry leaders. Why is that? Is it an accident? Is they were just in the right place at the right time? Or is some of that also the thinking of the CEOs, the people that are leading these organizations, these institutions through these times? And I believe that it's probably, while it's a combination of both, without the second one, it would never happen. In other words, it's always about certain people that were in an organization that saw through the noise and the bullshit and the negativity and nowadays in what the media is doing, they're trying to scare the living hell out of everybody. What their agenda is, it's really hard to say at this point. But, I make it a point every day to read different newspapers. I read the New York Times. I'll watch Fox News. I'll barely watch CNN. I have trouble doing it, but I watch them. I want to see what's going on, right? And I want to see all sides of the spectrum. And the one thing that cuts through everything is it's always about negativity. What's wrong in the world, the problem, the division, why everyone hates each other, and blah, blah, blah. And I think that it's very easy to get caught up in that and think that the world is essentially hopeless and going out of business and it's just down from here. But here's what I promise you all. I promise you that in 1 year from now, certain people are going to use this time, this moment in time, to take their companies and propel to an entirely different level and do unbelievably well. They'll emerge out of this infinitely stronger, while many will do the opposite and they will crash and burn. They'll succumb to the pressures of the time. Here's what I believe. A couple of things I've learned over the years. Number one, that if you can build a business in rough economic times, and there's no doubt that these are rough economic times. I'm not saying that things are not more difficult now. Obviously, it's been a forced economic shutdown. So it's unlike any crisis we've seen, basically, where something happened, there was a bubble had formed, bad decisions when credit was too loose, whatever it might have been, caused some unintended consequence and things crashed and burned, right? Get that, right? But this particular situation, things were pretty much humming along. Everyone was doing pretty well. And then one day they said, stop, shut your businesses, stay home. And essentially many of you go on the government dole and get checks sent to you every single month and sit back because it's too dangerous to go outside, right? So this situation we're in now is a bit different than normal. But the one thing I'm certain of is that, and I'm living it my own life right now, is that this does not mean that, number one, you still cannot grow your business. It's number one. Number two, that you can't start planning right now to emerge on the other side much stronger. For example, number one, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, am I in the right business right now? Does my current model actually play into the systemic, the paradigm shifts that are happening? There are huge paradigm shifts happening right now in how people go about working, how people buy their goods and services, how people simply move through the world and communicate with each other. For example, if someone would have told me a year ago that I would have 75% of my employees working remotely from home by choice at this point, I can have them back now, but I said to them, stay home. I don't need, I want certain core people to be here, but I can certainly leverage the technology out there right now that we're used to it, now that we have the systems in place. I would have said, no way. I would never ever want people to be remote. If I would have been told a year ago, the worst business in the world to be will be a restaurant, I'd probably say, oh, come on. Restaurants are you can make money at restaurants. Well, why not, right? I would have said, no way. If I would have, thought that, companies that own like retail stores like this would be, being destroyed by an unlevel playing field where people can buy through Amazon or because in the US where, certain companies, if they sold food, they would consider it essential. So they sold all the other products too. They could then sort of slide under the radar of essential services. So while their competitors, the small mom and pops, are forced to shut down, right? How, they're still selling those goods and services. Again, I would have said this is not possible. This wouldn't have happened, but it happened. And in the midst of that right now, what people are doing is they're adapting, they're changing the ways they're trying to stay in business right now over the short term. But most importantly, the question is, what are you doing over the long term? There's two strategies always. There's the short-term strategy, which is I need to stay in business. I need to live to fight another day. And sometimes that calls for the making of very tough decisions as a CEO. For example, when this first happened here in the United States, I literally used this, and I'll be blunt with everybody here, I used it as an opportunity to justify getting rid of anybody that was semi-optional. What happens is, I don't know, some of you have big companies, some of you have smaller companies, but most of us as CEOs, we have a heart. So, we feel bad. The person's marginal. Maybe I'm going to keep them on the payroll or the bottom 20% of the sales force can stay on because the top is doing so well. So I can justify that, right? Well, when COVID-19 hit here in the United States, right? And I saw the handwriting on the wall. I said, I'm not sure what's going to happen. So my knee-jerk reaction was, all right, I want to pare down. I want to get myself down here to my top core. And I let go about 30 or 40% of my staff at that point, all right? And I hunkered down for the storm. But what I didn't do is say, all right, I'm just going to hunker down for the storm and just pray that it passes me by. That's not what I did. My instant reaction was I have to cut expenses and figure out ways to maximize revenue over the short term. But then I said to myself, wait a second, based on what's happening right now, am I still in the right business? Do I need to pivot? Do I need to change my model? Because when this emerges, the world is not going to look the same. One of you brought up a very, very excellent point here about onshoring from China. That's 100% true. That is going to happen. It's certainly going to happen in the US. It'll probably happen in Mexico. There's going to be a massive backlash from that, and that creates massive opportunity. What else is an opportunity here is I noticed that any resistance to people doing things over Zoom, closing sales over Zoom, over Skype, whatever, if you will, face-to-face but virtual, that resistance has been reduced by about, let's say people did not want to do business that way. Now, 75-80% of people are more than happy to do business remotely. So you have to ask yourself, the first step here is not just hunker down for the storm. To me, it's a crucial thing is to look at your business right now and say, you know what? I need to make decisions for the future. And that doesn't necessarily mean, that can mean hiring a lot of people. I'll give you an example. One of the things that I was doing right as this started, I just had it's new. Let me shut these damn alerts are happening here. So I want to just kind of, if I can get rid of these alerts for a second. Give me just 1 second, guys. I'm going to shut these notifications off. I got to shut these. You guys give me notification. What? Let me get notifications. Hold on a second. Notifications, guys. In the future, you got to shut this off here. Okay, just turn this 1 second, guys. All right, 1 second. Do not disturb. Great. Thanks, guys. We had a little internet problem. We're still working from home here. So I have my whole staff in my house here. So the internet kind of went in the fritz this morning. So anyway, so the point was, is I looked at my business and I said to myself, what aspects of my business are going to be strongest in a post-COVID world? And what aspects of my business are going to kind of, wither away and maybe not be that, profitable anymore? And I quickly made a decision to pour all of my resources into online training, perfecting the art of distance selling. And I actually also realized that there's going to be a massive number of people out of work. So I think the same person who mentioned China also said about that, we're the engine that's going to put people back to work. And this is true, right? It's the small business owners that go out there and actually make things happen and do at least, I think it's very similar in Mexico, but in the US, it's small businesses, that literally drive growth across the board in every industry. Yeah, there's big employers too, but it's those small mom and pops and medium-sized companies that actually create the jobs, right? So I started taking myself, well, I saw all these, our employment was so tight. We had like 4% unemployment. At 3% was anyone could get a job, right? And then suddenly we are now at 18 or 17 or 18% unemployment. The number's always higher than they state, right? So I actually pivoted and said, you know what? I can start training salespeople and delivering trained salespeople to companies. So what I do now, I actually pivoted my business. I used to just go and train companies, train their sales force. I bought a recruiting agency instead of recruiting, training, and delivering trained salespeople to companies. And now companies are trying to all scale back up now because everyone's coming out of this. And I'm getting companies that are ordering trained salespeople, like in every industry, logistics, automobile, pharmaceutical. So I'm doing that. So the point I'm making is look at your company, and you have to say to yourself, whatever was happening before this started is not necessarily the same thing that's going to be happening when we emerge. There's opportunity out there right now. And I will tell you, I have many friends right now that are already starting to scale again. What you want to do here is you don't want to wait. When you read about it in the news, it's too late. When they say, oh, the economy's coming back, when they start saying things are good again, you've missed the ride. So as CEOs, this is it. It always starts from the top. If the people that work for you, if they see you flinch, if they see you worried, if they see you being negative, that's going to filter all the way down to the lowest level employee. But if you as a leader, day to day, stay strong, and you have to do is the first step is sit down and say, what is the vision for my company's future? What is our new vision? Now, if you didn't do, many people never do this, but I'm a big believer in that success always starts out with a destination. You know where you want to go before you get there. You always want to visualize where you want to go. Now, very often we don't end up where we thought, but we always have that starting point. And that starting point serves as a target to aim for. And as entrepreneurs, what we're doing is we're laser focused on our target, but we have this thing called bifurcated focus. You all know what this is. You probably never used that word before, but you know what it is. Bifurcated focus means with one eye, you're focused with laser guided precision on your vision for the future. So you're literally tunnel vision with one eye. And the other eye is constantly scanning the horizon for opportunities that you can integrate into your vision and make it better, stronger, and grow it. So in other words, our visions are not these static creatures. They're living, breathing organisms that are constantly growing, changing, evolving. So as an effective business leader, what you're doing is you have to know where you want to go. You have to have a target to aim for. And that target can't just be, it's not a goal. Like I want to get from this place to that place on this day. That's a goal. A vision is much more robust and colorful, and it has emotion attached to it. And it's something that, number one, when you read it back, when you have a vision statement and you read it back to yourself, it almost makes the hairs on the back of your own neck stand up. When you imagine achieving where you want to go and all the people you can help along the way, the jobs you can create, the success that you will attain at that level, when you think of it, it has to make you want to jump out of bed in the morning. If you don't have that right now, you're selling yourself short, your own life short. You're making your own job at achieving massive success harder because you don't have this defined target to aim for. And without a target, you can't hit what you can't see. We're visual creatures. So that's step one. You always need to have that vision for the future. And that, if you didn't have one, you got to get one. But if you had one, guess what? It probably needs an update. That's the first step is, okay, shit happened. Like, there's no denying shit happened, right? Things happened. The world got shut down. And you can say it was the right decisions, the wrong decisions were made. Doesn't matter. They were made, and here we are where we are, right? The next step is, where am I going? In 3 to 5 years from now, where do I see my life? And you gotta write this out. You have to first make it real in your own mind, because the next step is you need to perfect the art of sharing that vision with other people, sharing that with your employees, sharing it with everyone that works for you, because what happens is your people draw strength from you or weakness. They sense how you feel, how you act, what your state is, and your employees will respond in suit. So, as a successful entrepreneur, number one, you have to have a vision for the future. Number two, you need to be able to share that vision in a way that connects with other people, moves them to take action, to help you make your vision into a reality. We're never going to be one-person armies as much as we like to think so sometimes. There's always going to be other people that we need to help us get what we want in life. People that we have to bring into our vision and make it a reality. And I always say, there's two types of people in the world. That there's those that have a vision and those that don't. And the people who are the workers of the world, they lack a vision. Because here's the deal. Every human being is thirsty for a vision. Everyone is thirsty for some vision for the future, and so few human beings have one. So what do? They gravitate towards someone with a compelling vision, and they'll buy into your vision or your vision. They'll buy into your vision for the future and help you make it into a reality. CEOs have to be visionaries, and they have to be able to share that vision with the people that are underneath them, that they support, that they're lifting up. And those people buy into your vision and help you turn it into a reality. That's step two. And the third step is you need to possess the actual strategies, the real world business strategies to take that vision and turn it into a reality. It can't just be nonsense. I want to get to X, but we don't actually possess the skill sets, the people to help us do it. You have to possess the skill sets to take it, to make that vision real. Because without it, it's delusion. And we see many people like that. They'll tell you all the wonderful things they're going to do, and you can see they don't possess the real world skills to ever make it happen. So what do? They become like these hapless dreamers, always talking about success, but never actually getting anywhere. Now, obviously, you're on this particular call. That's not who you are. You own companies. You're successful. But the point is, one of the things that we sometimes forget when we're at this, we reach a pinnacle at a certain point. We're doing great, right? And we forget what really got us there in the first place. If you look back and trace back to the root of your success, it always started with this vision, someplace that you knew you wanted to end up with. So now is the time. It's the first step to coming out of this crisis, is to take a good look at what your vision is and make a new one. It could be substantially the same and just augmented to actually now take into account the paradigm shifts, the changes that are happening. And you want to actually have a vision that makes sense in the 21st century in a post-COVID world. So if someone is on here owning a restaurant, right? If you own a chain of restaurants right now, I'm not saying to go out of the restaurant business, but you have to say to yourself, okay, based on what happened, I need to have a model that allows me to be in that business, but also because I think this, by the way, I think this is a new paradigm, by the way, with shutdown. I think that while we will come out of this, there's going to be these quick, I think it's going to be something where, you see it. I travel a lot to Asia. Wearing masks in Asia is very common in Asia. They walk around with masks on, so I think there's going to be some fundamental shifts here that are permanent here. So the point is, I'm not saying to change your business. Maybe you should. Like right now, listen, if I was in certain, I don't want to say which ones, but if I was in certain industries, I probably would be looking for a graceful exit ramp out of those industries right now and trying to say to myself, okay, what can I do right now? What pivot can I make that has me with this rising tide? There's always the rising tide, there's a falling tide, right? A rising tide lifts all ships. Doesn't lift all ships equally. It's always best in class, there's winners. But a rising tide does lift all ships. The question is the industry you're in, is the tide. Are you in a rising tide right now, or are you in a falling tide? And very often, to make it change from a falling tide to a rising tide is not a matter of throwing the baby up, not just leaving it, but figuring out a smarter, better, more efficient, post-COVID friendly way of delivering your goods and services to people. What I have found personally is, right now, my business is better than it has ever been. Alvaro was there. I met Alvaro. We spent time together. He knows what I'm talking about. My business is booming now. Why? Because I made a shift. I went into the recruiting. So now I'm delivering trained salespeople, right? This was, and the post-COVID world, I said to myself, there's going to be massive unemployment. I can train people virtually now. All the things that might have stopped me from doing this in the past, this is my ultimate rising tide right now. So ask yourself, where are you right now in your business? What's working? What's not working? What changes do you have to make to maximize on some of the coming trends? Again, I believe there was whatever said about China, I believe that's going to be true. There's going to be onshoring. There's going to be more demand for domestic goods. There's going to be a realignment of how people go out and buying goods and services and where they source them from. That is definitely going to be happening. And there's going to be certain industries that are going to be considered so-called critical industries, right? And, if you can get yourself somehow in a position where you become, I wouldn't say COVID-proof, but pandemic-proof, and where you actually can maximize, you're actually benefiting when these things happen, those are pivots you want to be making right now. Now, in terms of how you instill that in your entire company, one of the things I've learned probably more than anything when it comes to motivating people is that what you say to people every once in a while, it matters, it makes a difference, but what you say to them every single day, that's where the magic is. So like I'm saying things to you right now and you're probably saying, yeah, that makes sense. He's speaking truth, yup, I should be doing these things, but it's not nearly as impactful if, every other day we were meeting and doing this and I was drilling into your ear and kept it. And it was a group of people that actually together were keeping this message fresh. So I believe things like these economic councils, what makes them so crucial is for yourselves to keep yourself together and motivated, because people isolated tend to wither and die. People in groups that can promote each other, sometimes a few of you are feeling down, you're going through tough times, while others are not, and that you draw energy from the group. So this is a time you want to be drawing energy from the group here and making sure you don't start buying into this false narrative, which is that the world is coming to an end and the rich are going to be poor. And it's just nonsense. It's just not true. Like any other great crisis, there's going to be massive winners and a bunch of losers. And who those winners are, the people on this call, it's up to you to ensure that you're in the former group and not the latter. And the way you do that, it's a day-to-day vigilance. It's day-to-day vigilance on where am I right now, what's working, what's not, what is no longer in the rising tide, what's in the falling tide category, and not being scared to make pivots. Now, if you own a company, you know that this is all what business is about, constantly pivoting, making changes, making sure you're not resting on laurels, what you did last year or 5 years ago. And I'm a firm believer about one thing also, that if you build a business in tough times, that when the good times come, holy crap, it's like open field running. So if you keep things tight now and you start growing in a tough time, that means you've developed a structure, a corporate structure, a business structure that can survive bad times. Well, what do you think is going to happen when times really start to get good again? You'll turn your business into a veritable cash register. So that's it. And it starts with you. It always starts with the individual, the leader of a company. You look at the leader. Is the leader a visionary? Are they buying into the false narrative? Or are they plowing ahead as a leader, a ball of light, so to speak, that everyone else draws energy from? I never let my people see me sweat here at my company. I can be worried, sick at night, and I am. Of course, I'm no different than any of you, right? I have my fears, I have my insecurities, I have my self-doubts every single day. But what I don't do is let them stop me. I do not let them stop me from charging forward when I should. When I feel fear and I have self-doubt, I say to myself, okay, obviously this is, I need to be, it's heightened awareness. I need to focus to make sure I get my outcome, and I work harder. I don't back away. I step into my fears. I face them. And that's what courage is all about. I've had a bunch of wives. I'm not done very well in the wife department. So I think 3 ex-wives ago, okay, she used to say to me, she goes, you're unbelievable. You're fearless. She goes, you have no fear. I'm like, well, that's not true. I'm scared shit. I'm as scared as you are about certain things. I just never let it stop me. When I feel fear, I step in. I don't back off. And that's what if there's one thing you could take away from this today, is that if you're feeling that fear right now, that's normal. That's natural. And you should be, because there's every reason to be fearful in this world. But that's a cue that now's the time to act. Not now's the time to run away from the fear and not take action. Let fear drive you, not debilitate you. And if you can instill that in the key people, your key managers below you, that idea that fear is not to be ignored. No, the fear is real. You have to say, what's the real root of that? And then you dive into that fear. And I use that to propel me to action, and also to get myself to do the things maybe I don't feel like doing every day. So much of success is getting yourself to do the things that you know you have to do every day, even when you don't feel like doing them. And I use my fears to propel me, not to disempower me. So that's my message to you today. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you guys. I have to say this, I am so sure, and I know you must all agree, I am so sure that the greatest opportunities are right. It's like literally, we are on, if it was 3 months ago, I'd be saying, all right, guys, we got some shit to go through and things are going to be good again, but there's some tough times. I don't believe that. I believe that right now we are on the cusp of greatness. I really do. I think we're literally weeks, months away from a complete reversal and a massive recovery. Whatever happens in the White House is going to run its path. So right now, the press, they want Trump to fail and be voted out of office. Whether you love him, it doesn't matter. Either he's going to win and they'll give up, say, all right, well, we got 4 more years of the guy. Maybe we'll make the best of it. Or he'll lose, and then all of a sudden, there'll be no more viruses or something, right? I mean, so that's happening either way in November. So the time to act is now. The time to take action, the time to go out there and make any changes to set yourself up for the coming boom. There is going to be a boom like we have never witnessed. I'm telling you, mark my words, we are about to enter a boom, a 3 to 5 year boom time, and you need to take action now to be prepared for the coming boom. It doesn't mean you have to run up your expenses, doesn't mean you have to go out and lose money, but don't sit back right now and operate with fear. The boom is right around the corner. It's literally, I think, weeks away, months, maybe September. It's literally it's that close. So I thank you all, and I hope to see some of you in person very soon. But there you go. Thanks, Alvaro.
Hey, Jordan, thank you for your motivational speech. We're going to open it up for a couple of questions. Here's a couple of them, which we'll go through. I bet you a lot of people want to discuss with you and go probably to your mastermind seminars that we've enjoyed in your house. But let's go through a couple of those questions. I invite some of you guys to post your questions through the Q&A link on the bottom of the Zoom. And if we can start with the first one. You want to go, Miguel?
Yeah, it's Joaquin Mesta has a question here. It's after all said and done in the past, would you do everything again?
So, you know, there's obviously, I don't think there's any person on this call here that if they could go back in time wouldn't change some decisions they made, right? I mean, of course I would. If I could cherry pick one decision for here, yeah, I mean, of course I would go out there and I would have probably bought Microsoft when it was $4 a share in 1988. I mean, that'd be one thing I would so easy differently, right? And held on to it the whole way through. But the answer to that is, all things being equal, the answer is no. The reason for that is I've made some huge mistakes in my life, no doubt about it, right? And I've made some great decisions that have propelled my own life to massive success. I've lifted up hundreds of thousands, not millions of people around the world. But I think the mistakes that I made back when I was younger, it gave me the platform that I have today. It turned me into a global brand, for better or worse. People now will listen to me and I help people achieve success. And, you know, I started training salespeople around the world. I trained salespeople for 35 years, but around the world for other companies. I started that about 12 or 13 years ago. And that has really opened up, you know, to me a world where like every day I get 20, 30 emails from just people around the world saying, listen, you changed my life. I bought your stuff or I saw your stuff online and it literally changed my life. Thank you. And I wouldn't change that for anything. So yes, of course, I wish I could have done everything right, but that's not the way life is.
Okay, second one from Federico Talavera. Do you think that regardless who wins in November, the trade war with China will continue?
I think, you know, that I think it was the man, I think it was John, but now I'm looking, I think it was John Berea who actually very wisely said that there's going to be a massive shift from China. Let me tell you, I can't speak for Mexico. There is a really, really negative sentiment right now in the United States towards China, like I have never seen. Yesterday, the FBI, the head director Ray said that Chinese is engaged in just massive, unprecedented espionage on a fiscal level, where they, you know, the biggest stolen transfer of wealth in history. Right? Those are bullwords. They're talking about this, about shutting down TikTok in the United States, which is a Chinese-owned platform. You guys probably know what TikTok is. Your kids are probably dancing on there. It's a crazy thing, right? I still can't figure out why people are on it, but it's like stupid human tricks, basically. But kids love it, right? But I think that there's going to be other things happening in China that are far more profound than a trade war. I believe that we're heading for a serious break with China. And I think that we're still going to do business with them. You know, China, but if you look back, I'm always a big believer in reading about history, right? So I know history very well. China is not a warlike, so they don't attack anybody. So I don't see China doing anything where they actually use their military outside of Hong Kong. I don't see them invading Taiwan anytime soon, which would create an international crisis. I don't see them really doing things like that. What I do see is China getting more and more aggressive with monetary policy, like they're doing with Australia right now, trying to, you know, make their political will the norm by threatening to withhold, you know, imports and stuff. That's happening right now out of Australia. I'm not sure how dependent you guys are on China, but I think Mexico stands to gain a windfall from this. A windfall. You think about it, right? You know, the whole idea that why would we go to China when we could go to Mexico and make products might be a little bit more expensive, but better quality, or at least equal quality, and not have to deal with that insanity coming out of China right now. Let me give an example. But, you know, some of you might know a company named Steve Madden Shoes, right? That was my company. I owned that company. I owned 85% of it at the start. It's now about $4 billion in sales, right? The way Steve Madden Shoes became Steve Madden is through Mexico. We used Mexico. What happened is that all the other shoe companies were manufacturing their shoes in China. And what happened was it was a little bit cheaper, but it would take 3 or 4 months to get products delivered. by going to Mexican factories, we were able to get the same exact product. It might have been about 10% more expensive, but the turnaround was 4 weeks. And because of that, we were able to run this just-in-time inventory and also have access to the hottest trends. We were consistently beating our competition to market because they're getting their stuff on a slow boat from China, so to speak. And we were taking advantage of NAFTA that just had been passed and getting things pouring across the border. So you know, China and we grew because I was on edge. It was an edge. So I believe that edge should be exploited right now. If I was in Mexico right now, I would be positioning myself to do whatever I could right now to capture in that coming shift of manufacturing out of China, Mexico. Training and trying to beat services, trucking it across the border, it saves time, and time is money. And in certain industries, that's the difference between just the ability to have the things quicker and know what's selling and what's not. In other words, with shoes, we could put the shoes in the store in 3 weeks, and we would know if it's sold or not. Versus taking 5 months from China, and by the time you found out, the season was over and you were out of business. So I believe there's a huge opportunity with that.
Thank you, Jordan.
Hey, Jordan. If you don't mind, Jordan, can we give you 3 questions so we can amplify on the answer, and that way we'll go quicker?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. It's from Federico Cantu. It's a great presentation, Jordan. Could you please comment on the rise of China and its influence in the world going forward? How will the U.S. will regain its leadership role? I guess pretty much what you just explained. Arturo de la Mora, what are the industry sectors where you see the most upside, and which sectors you must absolutely stay away from, and why? And the third one is from Leo Pando. It's Mr. Belfort. Quick one. How do you approach a business that you're not familiar with? Like Mr. Buffett says, invest in business you know. How do you diversify and approach to new business realms? So those are
you were cutting out in that third question. Was that how do I approach businesses that I'm not familiar with? Was that the question?
Yes, that is the question.
Mm-hmm. So to answer the first question about China, okay, number one, just so you know,
sure, I
heard the same thing about Japan in 1986, in 1985. Japan is taking over the world. Japan is this. Japan is going to be a Japanese world. And suddenly you found out that wait a second, it wasn't exactly true. It turned out that Japan had all these zombie banks, and by what was happening there, and there was a lot of fraud going on in the underbelly of their banking system. And suddenly Japan went from being this industry leader, this global power that everything was going to be Japan, to where Japan became an also ran and never assumed that role. So, and I believe that is going to be the case here. In terms of how the U.S. goes out and actually assumes a leadership role, I believe that what China has done a great job of is they've used this kind of push-pull combination of capitalism with no civil rights, and no freedom of speech. So it's almost like this ultra pure way of going out there. Like if they need to dig a dam somewhere, they just move a city and that's it. Get the hell out. We're going to send in the tanks, so to speak. Versus everything with the U.S. takes 10 years and there's 84 lawsuits and there's political infighting. All right. So I think that's what part of why China was able to grow so fast. And also remember, it gets more and more difficult. It's one thing to a system to lift people out of poverty. It's very different to sustain a system at that level, because what allowed them to lift people out of poverty was they had unlimited amounts of cheap labor. But what happens is as the standard of living rises in China, guess what? The labor is not quite as cheap anymore. And that's already happening in places like Vietnam, and there's other places out there where the labor is considerably cheaper. And, so China starts to have, it gets harder and harder, like any Ponzi scheme, to get more and more to support the people at the top. So I think that China's going to have its own struggles they face, especially now with this massive backlash that's going on against China. So I think that the future is, I wouldn't say that China is a leader right now. I don't think that's true. I think that the U.S. is still ahead of China. I think that right now the New York Times loves to make Trump look like an idiot any way they can. So I think that there's a lot of sentiment right now that they're making, that China's like the new evil player on the block, so to speak, right? So I don't think things are set in stone like that.
You broke up, Jordan.
Creo que tenemos,
Ya lo perdimos, se me hace.
sí, tenemos problemas técnicos ahí con la transmisión. Vamos a ver si se puede reconectar. Vamos a hacerle unos minutitos.
No, disculpa, demos un par de minutos únicamente. Ahí está de regreso.
Okay.
Back. Sorry.
Right.
So to finish
Sure,
my,
sure.
sorry, Tal, we figured out what was wrong with the internet this morning. Someone unplugged some booster cable. Anyway, so as I was saying, I found that all businesses have the same basic fundamentals to them. And while there are individual things you have to learn about a business, the things like, sales, marketing, and general operations, they're constants, and you see them applying again and again. So I've never found the business. I'm a consultant. That's what I do for a living. And I think Alvaro saw me, in the mastermind, literally. And there is no business that I literally cannot instantly pick apart and say what's right, what's wrong, and how do you improve it. And I guess that comes, I'm older than I look at. Maybe I'm 58. I'm going to be 58 soon, right? So I've been around. I mean, I've been in every business, and also my business when I was younger was venture capital. So that means my business was everyone else's business. I had to learn all these other businesses. So I think that, what you have to say to yourself is that, I'm not going to allow myself to get overwhelmed when I first step into a business. All right. I'm not scared to ask questions. I think the problem is that you feel like if you ask questions, if you ask the right questions in the right way and in the right order, then you get yourself into a position where people say, wow, they really get their shit, because, that's what experts do. Experts always ask questions. So it's very easy to learn a business if you know the overarching fundamentals. In terms of what industry stay away from, there are some. I hate to say, because maybe some of you are in these industries, so I would never, and just let me repeat this, I would never say that you can't make money in these, because I believe you can always make money. A smart operator will always make money. And also, most people in the industries I don't like will end up going out of business, and that will create opportunities for the strong players. So I'm not by any means saying you should abandon this business if you're in it, but certainly it is more challenging right now. For example, I said the restaurant business, right? If I was looking to go into a business, the last one I'd go into would be a restaurant right now. But what I would do is I'd figure out a way to maximize my online deliveries. People still want to eat. They still want high quality food. So I believe there's going to be some people. Now we have these delivery services here in the US. You probably have them in Mexico too. DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, that deliver food, right, from restaurants. The problem is that restaurants make money at the bar as well. And there's money, you can't make the same amount with deliveries. But I am sure there are many restaurants out there that while they've experienced massive pain in this downsizing, that they'll ultimately emerge stronger, leaner. Some will declare bankruptcy and use that bankruptcy as an opportunity to get rid of all their underperforming locations, which is what we do when we go bankrupt here in the United States, at least, is you use that a bankruptcy, a Chapter 11, to get rid of bad leases, break employment agreements. So some companies will go bankrupt and emerge much stronger, leaner, meaner, and will have a business model that allows them to sustain themselves in these more troubling times for that industry. So that's one example. Another example, I mean, I certainly wouldn't be opening up a taxi service right now. And that's even before the pandemic. But, because of, this trend towards, things like Uber and Lyft, I would go, things I would avoid are industries that are easily replaced by distance, like distance learning, the gig economy of sharing everything. There's a new economy out there. And, any business model I would go into would include this new economy. So I think that it's not like industries. I don't think it's like the buggy whip. In 1905, if you're making buggy whips, it would be great to get out of that business because the horse and buggy is going to be a thing of the past, right? But I don't think restaurants like the buggy whip. I just think that you need to have a model that is lean and mean and allows to operate through delivery and other means as well. A lot of it outdoor dining, because outdoor dining is still what's happening now. The restaurants that happen to have locations where they can do the bulk of their service outside, those are still running. So, for example, if I was opening up restaurants now, I'd be looking to open up restaurants that were primarily outdoor eateries. And this way, you're basically COVID-proof, so to speak, going forward. It's an example.
Okay. 3 final questions, Jordan. First one is from an anonymous attendee. How would you recommend one to navigate through all the, hold on. It was about, what's your daily routine to stay focused, motivated, anything you're willing to share, diet, exercise, meditation, good habits, bad habits? How different in your week's routine to your weekends? Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, 3 books that you recommend. And number 3 would be from what's your perspective of the market? And do you think it's the market is at all-time highs, and would you go short? And the final comment is, I know we discussed about Elon Musk when I attended your house. Would you be willing to help him come and discuss with the group of Chihuahua regarding some of opportunities for Mexico?
Elon Musk?
Yeah. You connected him to some opportunities.
Yeah.
And
let's start. Okay, so go back. So your first question was, I got caught with the Elon Musk question because I always laugh when I get the Elon Musk question, right? Okay. So the first question, my routines, right? What do I do? There's a differ on the weekend. So here's what I do to stay focused. The one thing I've found that is, for me, is really helpful is making lists. Is I have a list of things that are like these are just big picture lists that I have of like 5 or 6 things that I have to accomplish every single day. Because if I don't have that list, I can't sleep at night because my mind starts to always loop and check. And I keep, going and ruminating on the things. What did I forget? So I find that making a list is a very powerful thing for me. It's a list I have, typically has about 10 or 12 things on it. And it has a combination of immediate tasks and then more just sort of longer term things that are just, things I need to, continue focusing on. That's number 1. Another thing I do is I place a big emphasis on staying in shape, exercise. I think that is crucial. That, I find that when I'm feeling physically fit, my energy level is naturally higher, and that benefits everybody around me. So that's certainly something I do. Number 3 is I never sleep in. I never ever sleep past 7 a.m. I will not. I make sure I get out of bed in the morning and I start my day. Even if I have to go back, if I'm terribly tired, I'll go to the couch and I'll take a nap on the couch. But I don't stay in bed past 7 a.m. I get out of bed in the morning and that's it. Sometimes I'll take a nap for 15 minutes in the afternoon or something like that. I'll take a quick 15, 20-minute nap, right? But I see people and that kind of linger in the 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, you know, the old saying, I don't know if you have this in Spanish, but, you know, the early bird catches the worm, right? Well, guess what? You know, I mean, a lot of the sayings we have are true. And, you know, like, it's just an advantage to getting up and starting your day and getting into work mode. In terms of my weekends, they're no different than my weeks, really, because I don't work for a living. I don't consider myself working. I do what I love. The day I'm working is the day I retire. At least that's how I think of things. Now, do I have a less formal schedule on the weekends? Yes, because there's no employees here all the time, right? But it's not like I say, it's Saturday. I don't put I never, and this, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. It's just for me. I don't set aside sacred time and say I'm not going to focus on work because I never am working. I love what I do. So, you know, it wouldn't make sense. Like if I have something personal to do on a Tuesday, I'll do it on Tuesday. Like this, to me, I work 7 days a week and I'm retired 7 days a week. I don't distinguish between the two. Every single day to me is just another day where I'm going about living my life, which is I work. I have a girlfriend. I have my friends, and whenever that happens, it's 7 days a week. You know, when I make my free time whenever I want to make my free time. It could be on a Tuesday, a Wednesday, or a Friday. Doesn't matter to me. Now, again, my kids are grown. If you have small children, then it's very different because you have soccer games on weekends. And I remember when I was a parent, Saturday and Sunday was times for my children because I wanted to watch my children grow. Very different situation, right? And I had some of the greatest memories I have are, you know, my kids playing soccer. My kids were great soccer players, and I used to go to the games, were the biggest things, and we'd all travel to the play. It was amazing, right? So I'm not saying, but now as I'm older, my kids don't want to, that I'm not cool enough for my kids anymore. I have to beg them to call me, right? So the point is that's, to me, something I don't distinguish. Work, play, everything to me is fun, or else I wouldn't do it. And as far as Elon Musk goes, I mean, I know Elon. I've met with him before. We've done some business together. You know, you can get Elon Musk to come to Chihuahua, I'm sure. You just got to probably pay a fee.
The three books that we mentioned, Jordan, can you mention 3 books?
I got 3 books. So the one book that I think is just phenomenal is Think and Grow Rich. That's one of the first success books that I read that to me always stuck out in my mind as just being just an amazing, powerful read is Think and Grow Rich. Another one would be my own book. I think the book I wrote, The Way of the Wolf, is a book on persuasion and how to close deals. So that to me is a crucial book to read. It's an easy read. It gives you a massive amount of information on how you close, how you market, how you position yourself. That's certainly a book. And there's a book I was written called Snowball on Warren Buffett that I thought was great as well.
Okay. And the last one was about your perspective on the market. Do you think?
I think the market, listen, I mean, to me, the market seems awfully toppy right now. I don't get it. You know, I think the market right now is a function of a lot of cheap money, ultra low interest rates. To me, I'd be very, very careful investing in the market right now. I would say if I had to guess, if in 1 month from now, I would say it would be lower versus higher, but I don't know.
Well,
all right.
Okay. Well, let's close up. I want to thank you, Jordan. I know we had a great time, and your discussions were very motivational. I want to thank everybody that joined in, the people of Desarrollo Económico, a lot of friends, allies, and I'll turn it over to Miguel, and look forward to see you again, Jordan.
Thank you, Jordan. Well, I just want to thank you too, and we'll see you sometime soon in a couple of months over there.
100%.
And
I look forward to it.
I'll meet you over there, and we'll thank everyone who's attending here. As you can see, all these good advices, we have to put them working right now. So thank you all. John, I will pass it on to you. So if you want to close, thank you.
Well, again, on behalf of both of our organizations, it was an honor to listen to all of the great advice that was put forth today. We have some great information to move forward with. And as always, please stay safe, everyone. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with Desarrollo today, and onward and upward. We've got a great future and a great trajectory. Thanks, Mr. Belfort, for his presentation again. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Good seeing you.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, everybody.